Okay, good afternoon, folks. Hope we're all well. Hope we're all good. Not really the first charting call of 2026 because we did most of that on Tuesday. That being said, hey there, Adam. We will jump in. We're going to have a look at some charts again. And I'll start with a 3-day, but let me just preface this and just say if it feels like you have no idea what's going on because one day we're up and one day we're down, you are not alone in that. It is kind of a bit of crazy at the moment. Anytime we get some significant momentum to the upside or to the downside, it seems that in a in the session of a Brinks box session, a 1 hour session, whatever it may be, all of that enthusiasm or fear can just be completely underwritten, undermined, and reversed the other way. And that's part of this ranging kind of period that we're in, the volatility that we're experiencing. And so if you see everything going up, great. Don't get too carried away with the things that things are moving up. But more importantly, if things start coming back down, don't get too worried just yet. We try and draw out major levels that we've got to get concerned at. Anything between those levels, we just got to pick it up as noise and just appreciate it is what it is. Those of you that want to trade, that's the level of volatility that you can work within. And had you have been trading even Bitcoin over the last 7 weeks and put 86,000 and 93,000, you'd have had some hell of some opportunities there. So doesn't mean it's going to last another 7 weeks, of course. But I just want to kind of reiterate that we are in a ranging period. It can be frustrating, nervous, joyful, all of those things. And that is just par for the course. So don't worry too much about it all. Right, now looking on the 3-day time frame, and you can kind of see what I'm getting at with Bitcoin here. I'll blow it up onto a bigger chart. But running into Tuesday, we had sort of a break 94,000, and we were getting very excited that we were closing above that level. And then lo and behold, what happens? Actually, we just hit the top of that range, and we've come crashing back down. And we talked about on Tuesday that don't be too worried if we do see 89,000, which we have now seen. we would expect some sort of pullback from that, and that is kind of what happened. But I've got to be honest with you, we've kind of stuck down these low 90 levels for a couple of days now. And my view is probably that actually the real level we want to be looking at is the bottom we see here, around about 86,500. And, if I had to be a betting man, unless something significant happens, I know there's a Supreme Court announcements about Trump's tariffs and all of that kind of stuff. That's news. We'll see what the charts tell us on that. But I would be a better man to say that actually the bottom of this range is probably going to be taken out again. I can't give you a time frame on when it's going to be, but that feels like that's where it's going, particularly after a fairly decent rejection from 93,000. So that's kind of the range that we unfortunately find ourselves playing with on the 3-day time frame. We're still within it, but it gives us plenty of opportunity there. There's no new eye-opening kind of charting information that's going to come from Bitcoin dominance. We're ranging around about 59. Yes, we talked about it on Tuesday that we had formed a lower high. So maybe this is the start of the rollover. But the majority of altcoins are not faring any better. As a matter of fact, the only ones that are the AI ones, and one of those being BitTensor. So that's something that we can all at least enjoy. But most other altcoins are looking very similar to Bitcoin in terms of charts. I'll show you some of those a little bit later on. Hence why, again, we're kind of just staying within that 59% level. And we tried to get excited about total too, but look, we've got a reversed, complete engulfing candle of where we are. We find ourselves back where we were at the end of last year, below the $1.25 trillion level there. And as I said, reflected in the price of the majority of altcoins over the last few days. But this is BitTensor. And I don't think this is the worst chart to look at, certainly better than most of the other ones. Kind of a V-shaped reversal from the drop that we saw in December. We've come back up. We've hit that trend line. We talked about that on Tuesday. It was where we currently were. We had a fairly decent pullback. We're starting to buy that one back up. Now, I know some people kind of get excited about low tests. I would say just be cautious on that one. Still technically the majority, the last 2 months we have been in a downtrend, so I would ignore low tests. I'm more looking at that support resistance line. Currently sitting around about 295. Got to break through that. But we've had an attempt of it. We've had a couple of attempts over the last few days. Not been able to get there, but we've stayed within the region that we've been in. We've ranged there where other assets have fallen. So I cannot complain with how that one looks. Obviously, we're going to go in more detail on a lot of those in a moment. And we've got an ad here for eToro if anyone's interested. But I know we normally talk about this stuff on a Tuesday, and I'll get into the chat as quick as I can, but this is just to emphasize just that volatility, that sort of conflicting emotions that we had. Because when I spoke to you on Tuesday, we were at 46. We were getting close to getting, right smack into neutral. We were starting to be in, well, we were in neutral territory, but maybe ticking over to the right hand side of that. We've actually now been slapped in the face, and whilst we've not fallen into extreme fear, we're only 2 points off extreme fear. We come all the way back down to 27 in a matter of days. And as I say, it's just reflective of a very nervous time for the markets, for individuals. Every move up is met with skepticism, and every sort of pullback or rejection is like, oh yeah, I told you so, we're going down. So I kind of think it's an interesting time to be, because, if you want to play the market maker theory, manipulating people's mindset into almost giving up, and then we see those face melting returns. I'm not quite getting too excited about face melting returns, but potential for a breakout, which I kind of talked about for God knows how long. And then even the big boys can't decide what they want to do. So we have ETF inflows. We started at the beginning of the year with some pretty decent inflows, sort of $750 million worth. And then over the last couple of days, sorry, that's just with BlackRock, it was over $1 billion across the board. And then the last couple of days, we've started to see a decent amount of that, about 50% of what BlackRock bought, and near on, let me have a look here, got to do some good maths, 800, pretty much all of what everyone else had bought has been sold. So yeah, that level of indecision is not just on as noobs as retail. It seems that institution are just trying to find and sound out which is the best asset for them to be in. And unfortunately, precious metals are still running amok, which is, if you're in them, fantastic. Anyway, let's get into some actual charting. That's what we came here for today, and I don't want to drag everyone's day out longer than it needs to be, but you can see Bitcoin daily time frame at the moment. RSI's on the bottom. Don't worry about that for now. We'll come into that a little bit later on. We had top of the cloud. This is where we were Tuesday, this sort of a low test candle, magenta colored candle. And that's what I mean in terms of don't get too excited about low tests in a downtrend. They don't often that play out. You'd be looking more for high tests as a bit of a continuation. And all of this momentum came in. I got excited about breaking the 50 EMA with a green vector candle. We immediately wicked down into it, but we bounced back from it. It looked great. Where do we find ourselves at the moment? Below the 50 EMA and kind of sitting in around that 10 and 20. But we are at a level I kind of said that we were going to pull back to, that 89,000 we'd come back down into. And so right now, yes, we've had that strong move up. And you've got to remember the measured move really, even the short-term move from the 29th of December, from 87,000. We got to 94, kind of expecting 50% pullback, taking us at 90,000 level, which we find ourselves at right now. And it's all about whether or not we can sustain. Of course, we've got to have another attack of the 50 EMA, so we need to get the right side of that. But I'm not necessarily too worried. If I get rid of this yellow line now, it's actually kind of irrelevant. And we draw the pattern that we've been looking at as well, which is sort of ranging pattern here. I'll change the color of this because it's hard to see. I'll put this on here. And then we got this one down at the bottom as well. And that's what everyone's talking about, isn't it? This is either a, double bottom, now potentially forming into a triple bottom. It's a bear flag, and we're going to see lows down into the high 60,000s or whatever. But for me, it's just a range. We can only play the range until it breaks one way or the other. Keep it going. We've rejected off the top end of the range, and this is what I mean by, for me, just given what's happened over the last 7 weeks, my strong conviction, well, it's not a strong conviction, but I would favor that that's the move. If we get down to 86,000, fine. Maybe we just get down to sort of that 87. But that continuation of that move here before we then have to have that discussion of either we lose it, we go down, we can have a conversation at 82,000 on whether or not we take out the low from November, or we just continue with what we've done, which is have that move back up. And so that's kind of how I'm playing it right now. I mean, the RSI kind of suggests as well, if you can see it down here, I'll try and bring it up, that we've seen some sort of peak. Maybe we are going to get a bit of a cool off, although this could turn around at any time. So you didn't get into that fully overheated, overbought kind of territory. So I don't use that necessarily to set my trades. I just have it as a little, are you getting too excited or too worried when you shouldn't be kind of indicator. But that's kind of where we find ourselves on the daily time frame. Get rid of let's get rid of these now, just because we're going to drop onto the lower. Just remember that Bitcoin picture, okay? Just remember, Ranging, break up, break the 50 EMA, staying within the cloud, come back down, close below the 50 EMA. Just please remember that, although I will remind you of it. But when we have a look at most of the other alts that are just on the right-hand side here, you're going to see it's very similar in terms of how that played out. Down onto the 4-hour. And again, obviously we're still within the range, so that's not changed whether we're on the 4-hour or the daily. But we can kind of see from, I can zoom it in. I should have a quick way of doing this. We've come down here, and what's actually quite interesting is they say 200 EMA, and we've sort of like bounced off it, formed some sort of like local high here, come back down, and we're kind of bouncing off it again. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed double bottom, but that's certainly why I'm looking at the moment, using that 200 EMA as support. And if that were the case, even on a smaller time frame, I'd be looking at recovering the rest of that vector candle, if not then a move up. But again, I say this every single week, every vector candle when you range gets recovered. Look at all of the vectors to the right, sorry, the left of price action. All bar one have been recovered. So it's a good chance that that ultimately will get recovered. And so for those of you that are worried that it's moving down, actually, we've got an opportunity for this, or a reason for this to move back up. But yes, right now, we've got this down here. It's only the 4 hours, so it could just be a very quick move back up, particularly as we've got the markets opening soon. RSI's, it's not really anywhere that I'd be too concerned about. It's about 40, 42, so kind of middle of the range. What I would say is the 20, the 10, and the 50, all within each other's way at the moment to get through there. Sorry, the 10, the 50, and the 20. I'm not sure if I said that right, but that's what I meant to get through. But that's what I want to see. Now, the issue being that if we do get to there and fail, and roll back over, it's just further confirmation that we are heading towards that trend line that would be down there. We really need to see, if we want to see some good movement here, is it break through that and keep on going. And anything less than that, obvious I know to stay, is probably further confirmation that actually we're running out of momentum, and that a reset within this range, not saying we're falling any further, but a reset within this range is more than likely what would ultimately play out. So that's kind of where we just need to look at things right now. I'd be looking, how long we got? 2.5 hours left on this candle here with the market opening into it. See how the market's open. Can we get through the noise of the EMAs, that vector? But again, we've got to break it with conviction to get through. Sorry, to convince me that it isn't just I don't want to say a fake out, but ultimately a failed rally, and then down into where it goes. I don't think the 1 hour really tells any different kind of picture. Not really. I mean, a lot of the same, the 800s kind of where this bottom's forming, the 200s now where the 50 is. There's just a bit more mess there. And look, the ranges that we'd previously drawn all have vectors on the 1 hour as well, kind of sort of indicating that actually there's definitely a magnet or some sort of weight up there to try and drag us out of the mud. I'm going to talk, because Jeff asked me to, and it's related to Bitcoin, so we'll just talk HUT for now, and then we'll come back to some of the other ones. So Jeff wanted sort of, to understand what my views were with HUT, which is a mining company, for those of you that know, Bitcoin mining, not minerals in the ground. And it's done well. Originally, I thought it was new all-time highs, but actually it has been higher. But it's been on a rip, and over the last, 9 months, 12 months or so, we've gone from $8 all the way up to $60. And, this is a Bitcoin mining company. When Bitcoin's doing well, these do well, but these sometimes lead the pack in terms of where price it could ultimately go. And so we are seeing not just on HUT, things like Riot, others, all doing very well at the moment, which could be an indication of what is going to happen for Bitcoin. No guarantee on how far Bitcoin can go from that. But in terms of where this actually sits, because that's what you asked me for, not my opinion on just mining companies as a whole, I am going to put the RSI into play. Don't think it matters much, but in the UK, we can only buy the CAD HUTs. Okay. Good to know. Thank you for that, Jeff. I'm still going to use this chart. So we've had this sort of climb out through here. We've been, steadily moving along. We've had some really strong, no, I'll rephrase that word, not strong pullbacks. We've had some encouraging pullbacks to sort of areas of so previous support confluence. So if you have a look We've pulled back into these zones a couple of times, tying in with that shoulder, which I think you can see, on the right hand side. They have broken through the 50 EMA, but we've managed to get through each time from it. And now we've cleared that. We've cleared the local highs on the move up. And it looks like, things are going well. What I would say, just as a point of concern, is there's definitely a bearish divergence here, because RSI is showing weakening strength, whereas price action is continuing to climb, culminate right now in the new top. No time frame on when this plays out, but it's suffice to say that buyers are certainly getting tired, and what we might ultimately end up seeing is some profit taking. Now, that profit taking could just be back into this $50 range, into this 50 EMA range, round about $46, resetting this, a bit further back down, kind of tying in with this trend line here, and then we ultimately go again. But just being careful that certainly on the daily time frame, it does look like we're running out of steam, and that some profit taking, some selling is likely on the cards. But with the way it's reacted, sort of with that 50 EMA, or certainly with this level down at the sort of between 40 and it's 40 and 30, so it's a fairly decent level. It looks to me like any pullback we're going to get here, as long as the trend continues, we're going to get brought back up quite nicely. And even in these pullbacks, we're making, there's a lot of lines on this chart right now. We are making sort of higher lows each time we're pulling back. So again, showing that the buyers are willing to step in down at these levels. And maybe it's just a case of what we're going to see once I've cleared this up. We do see some sort of move back down, and we lose the 50 EMA. Maybe we do come back down, start to take out some of these vectors. It still would be higher than these other ones here. So I think I can't fault it. I don't really follow Bitcoin mining stocks. I don't own any, but looking at what I see there, yeah, I think it's pretty good. Got to be completely honest with you there. Whether or not that helps you decide on whether you want to sell any, I'm sorry, I can't make that decision for you. But the trajectory is in the right direction, and it's showing that there's still some interest in Bitcoin mining. And obviously, there's still some money to be made for the miners themselves. Okay, going back to BitTensor. Let's get into BitTensor. Let's just take this down once I find where it's grabbed. There it is. Oops. Okay, now I told you at the beginning that a lot of altcoins looked like Bitcoin. Remember, I said we wanted that drop down, attack of the 50 EMA, top of the cloud, fall back below the 50 EMA. No problems, Jeff. Well, BitTensor is one that is different, because it's a similar start to the story. We've continued to fall down. We've had some pretty stark falling since our high in November. We found that bottom. We've seen that U-shaped reversal at least, and we've seen a very strong climb out of it. What we're now finding is that, like with Bitcoin and other altcoins, we are ranging. Last 4 days we've been ranging. However, BitTensor's managed to do it above the 50 EMA, while pretty much everything else is doing it below the 50 EMA. So we're building support from that. We're getting stuck in some pretty important levels, it's got to be said. And not even the Gandalf level at this stage. Looking at 300, I didn't draw that very well, 297, but that $300 level, we're coming up to it. We're kind of hitting it, and there's plenty of low. Like how we talk about 100,000 being Bitcoin's sort of psychological level for us at the moment. Well, 300 is as well for BitTensor in terms of what that looks terrible. But when you actually look through, there's quite a lot of price action, support and resistance that comes through 300. So we're just running into that right now, but we're at least holding our own above the 50 EMA. There's plenty of volatility, again, for those of you that want to play with that. But right now, I'm fairly happy with how that's looking. I mean, obviously, it could be better by continuing to climb up. But, if you had to be in crypto, certainly being in BitTensor the start of this year compared to many others is the place to be. And I know on the right-hand side, both Zcash and Pippin have greater percentages, but they've had some stonking falls over the last couple of days as well. So it's looking quite good there. Let's get rid of these lines and let's just talk about it from another point of view. I'm going to drop it down to the 4 hour. So we've had this, as I say, this sort of bottom, and if you want to talk about market maker cycle theory, that's a bottoming pattern, isn't it? There we go. Now we're trying to look at sort of climbing out from this. And I can't guarantee, that we are in a consolidation phase, but interesting to see that actually as we have climbed out of this leg, we've now actually formed an M formation. Now it could just be ranging, and we're going to range as part of that consolidation. But what I would say is, it's a good chance that this leg up, leg one, has rise one, is probably concluded. Sorry, and we're entering a consolidation phase in and around here, which would tie in with probably a little bit more ranging before we have that move up. We haven't quite got down to the 50 EMA, so I suppose I can't give it with a total cast iron guarantee, but ultimately it is there. But I do find it quite interesting. This we've come up, we've hit it twice, got people excited. We are starting to climb up now, but I would be worried. My worry level, oops, I'll draw it with a straight line, is here. Yeah, sub 270. We lose that, and then maybe we got a bit. By the time we lose it, that 50 EMA is probably going to be there as well. But we could start to see a fairly decent. Sorry, someone sent me a text. Fairly decent retracement there. Still not the end of the world if that were to happen. We've had that strong move up from there. We come down to 250. I don't think that's necessarily a bad level to find ourselves, as long as we can sort of find some support and climb out from it. But I am just keeping an eye on this double top, particularly the fact that Bitcoin and a few others may be able to force themselves down. It could be that all altcoins follow. Yes, BitTensor has been one of the exceptions with it being an AI token. And as we speak now, it's still climbing as well, which is good to see. In terms of this, though, oops, let me pull the RSI up. Let's just get rid of these drawings for now. Because you can kind of see, again, similar to what I was saying, let's get rid of some of these as well. Don't think we necessarily need them right now, and I don't want to confuse anyone. So price has obviously been going this. If you look at that wick as well, we've got high, 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 high. Okay, so we're making 4 higher highs. But on the RSI, it's the opposite. And this last high, significantly lower. Okay, so I know I would normally draw the line on top, but ultimately that is trending downwards, whilst this is trending upwards, suggesting we're having a bearish divergence. I don't want anyone to confuse it. I'm just going to move it. I don't want people to be like, how are you drawing that in the wrong place? That'd be there. Okay. Oops, I couldn't grab that one. And again, so a bit like what I was saying with, are we getting a bit of buyer's exhaustion? Yes, there's still some enthusiasm there, but ultimately it's that we're going to need to see a reset. And the longer this goes on, unfortunately, the stronger the reset needs to be. What I'd like to start to see is starting to reset on the price side of things to tie in with how the RSI is doing. And that can be done through ranging. Got no problem with that whatsoever. But, the fact that we're still seeing price move up while this is going down, suggesting that there is some sort of tiredness there. So certainly something to bear in mind. But I'm not excited about what BitTensor is doing, but I prefer what BitTensor's price is doing compared to Bitcoin's, just because it's done well over the last 7 days in comparison. Oops, what have I done there? Sorry. And that goes on to something that Mark asked me to have a look at, or Marco, apologies, which is Tau BTC. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that now. And so Bijan had posted in Discord about Tau BTC coming up to quite an important level. We talked about support and resistant levels from there. But before we go and have a look at what was said there, just bear in mind this is Tau versus BTC, but just look how similar Tau versus US dollar is. If Tau and BTC climbed and rose at the same rate, this would just be a flat line. But this ultimately looks very similar because Tau is either underperforming compared to Bitcoin when it's going down, or it's overperforming when price is going up. And so it's kind of built that same kind of picture there. Interestingly, though, it has started to run into some significant levels. Let's put it onto the daily. It's going to be easier to see. So even looking from what I point of view, we've climbed up above that 50 EMA, which we've done on the USD version. But on this one, we've run in and rejected from the 200 EMA, which we've kind of been rejecting from the last couple of times we'd hit it. But it does seem like today we're making another good run at that one, which is fair enough. In terms of support and resistance lines, this is not going to be perfect. There's a wick up there from the Binance launching, but we'll ignore that. So this is what Bijan had kind of drawn. And we are running into the 200 EMA correlating with this resistance level, which granted the resistance has only happened over the last 3 months, because prior to that, this was actually down here. And there's an argument to be made that could be finding here, but we were sort of running into it here. But there is something that can be drawn here. And yes, okay, we broke through it very, for a short amount of time, but we're coming into that. But ultimately right now, had you owned Bitcoin since October 24 or BitTensor, Bitcoin is still the winner. BitTensor is now starting to turn that around. What we need to see, yes, we need to see it break out through this level, but even that doesn't convince me it's not going to stay. I kind of think it's got to climb a considerable amount. We need to get to 0.005. Put in BitTensor, Bitcoin price stays similar to where it is, in and around that $500 region, $450, $500 region, before we can kind of say that we really are starting to see this move up. Now, we've seen that BitTensor can move fast, and so maybe it could achieve that. But right now, I would be cautious in terms of Tau BTC, just because we're right on the pinnacle of the 200 EMA and this resistance line. You might as well wait to see if it can flip the other side of it. And if it can, perfect. Then there's an opportunity to potentially sell some Bitcoin into BitTensor, ride whatever movement up, and then sell it back. You'd end up with more Bitcoin. That being the play at hand there. I kind of think that's probably it for BitTensor. As I say, I appreciate, there's no real shocking revelations right now, just because prices, it has been a bit of a funk, a bit weird. Interesting that we've got all these greens down here. The market's about to open. Do we look to recover what was made from the market open yesterday? We'll have to wait and see. Again, I say moved up strongly. Since we talked about it, it's moved up $5, but that's far better than what Bitcoin has done over the same period. I'll come back to Zcash and Pippin in a moment, but if we have a look at things like Ethereum on the daily time frame, you're going to start to get that same picture that I asked you to think about. That move up to the top of the 50 EMA, break back down below the 50 EMA. It's happened in Ethereum, it's happened in BNB, it's happened in Link, it's happened in Near, almost happened in Solana. This one's a bit more like BitTensor, to be fair. SPX, it's down there, and XRP is fighting that 50 EMA. So even that 7-8 altcoins that I just have on the watch list, very similar kind of pattern in terms of where that's going, which is why we're seeing Bitcoin dominance relatively flat over that same period, and the market's just generally working in the same way. In terms of where we see Ethereum going, one thing that Ethereum always has in its favor at the moment is just this 800 EMA in and around 2930 as a level of support. It's worked well in the past. We've got a vector that we're hovering right above at the moment. I mean, feels like that's got to be taken before we can see some move up. And we're in that range. Okay, the Bitcoin range is from 86 to 94. Ethereum's is from basically 3.4 to 2.9. This is kind of a range that we've been in. That sort of angle's moving that way. I suppose this one's compressing down this way. And we're just getting squeezed between the two until it decides which way it wants to go. We've got a few weeks until that could play out. But if it was to play out right now, it needs to either break 290 and stay below, or it needs to break above 3,400. I don't really feel like either of those moves are going to happen right now. Watch it happen in the next 5 minutes, obviously. But yeah, it's just stuck in no man's land. It's still looking like a bit like a W down at the bottom, so maybe there's some hope there, but I'm not so convinced on that. For me, I think that's more likely. We just stay within the range, but we take out that vector first. I don't think the 4 hour tells any different story. Not really, no. It's kind of uniform in its up and down, but there's still a few little smidges of vectors down here, and then some to attack after we finished. If we move on to Zcash, because yesterday there was some news about the development team, it dumped all the way down, and I tell you, you talk about missed opportunities. Yesterday was a massive missed opportunity. I was chatting with a friend about, this trading thing that I'm doing. I was like, look, we dropped it. At the time I was calling it 395. I was like, feel like it's a long here. I think I even put that in Discord as well. I didn't take it. I didn't take it for a couple of reasons. One, I had things to do, and I go and look at a house that we end up with, we're not interested in, so wasting my time there. But I was like, I don't really know too much about the story that's caused this. I never verified it or seen how long it was going to go for, so I just kind of ignored it. I didn't take the trade. I think it was, in hindsight, obviously, what a regret. One of the most obvious trades, just look at, in terms of vectors, and then of course you're gonna see after, oh, what have I done there? After such a steep drop off with all of those vectors, it's just standard practice, even if it's rolling over now, for that to make some sort of recovery. So a bit of I don't know if I'm still being a bit gun shy. I probably should have just taken it. Hard to enter now, to be perfectly honest with you, on what we can see, because we've had this move down 4-hour time frame, by the way. So we had this sort of announcement about the dev team, which again, I've still not bothered to verify or understand what's going on there. It doesn't really bother me. We've had this recovery, full vector candle recovery here, but 50% of the drop has been recovered, but running straight into that 10 EMA. And then it kind of looks like it's rolling over a little bit. And the worry now is, even if it's not a dead cat bounce and we make a new low, are we actually now looking to sort of find some sort of range in and around down at 395? I think that's possibly the case. It is also worth throwing on, in this instance, the RSI, because again, look, when you talk about should I place a long or a short, in my opinion, strong move down like this. I mean, it just lost its floor, went all the way down. We went from 500 to 370 in a matter of a 24-hour period. Not only that, the RSI getting all the way down to like 15. Even if you'd only put like a 2x long in or something to try and protect your risk and not get liquidated before $200, whatever, still feels like this could have easily climbed back up. And that's what it did. And you could have just had a very short 10%, 20% kind of play before moving out. I kind of regret not taking it, but it's all part and parcel for the course, really there. And as I say, certainly right now on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, I don't really see an entry that I particularly like, in terms of we haven't broken above the 50 EMA on the 1 hour for a long, and maybe an opportunity to ride that back up to 470. And likewise, there's no real guarantee that this is ultimately rolling over yet, because we've just been ranging for so many hours sideways. We need some confirmation that that's going that way. Sorry, someone's ringing me. So not really done anything with it. Zcash is one that I like the trade, which is why it's up there. And Pippin's had a similar kind of fall from grace. It started earlier and nothing to do with the dev team. We had this massive sort of sell-off, getting all the way down to, where did we get to? 20 cents, basically. And then look, stellar return and climb back out of this. Almost 100% increase on where it was. What's this? Late Wednesday night. So had a really good climb there. Now I just wonder if it's a bit too overbought. I know we're on the hour time frame, bearish divergence there, price still climbing up. I think it's probably just worth waiting for a reset rather than just jumping eyes shut straight into it. Right, sorry, someone's put something here. Hi, could you have a look at render? Yes, of course. Render. I mean, so last time I saw render, oh no, spelled the proper way now, isn't it? On Wednesday, it was looking very good. And even now, let's put it on the daily. So this was the one that was leading the way on the top 100 over the last 7 days. And so we've had that bottom. We've started to recover through. I suppose actually less excited. I mean, still done very well. 5-6 green daily candles in a row, taking us, smashing through the 50 EMA, kind of running out of steam, not only at the 200 EMA, but we're topping out in the RSI. We're kind of falling over. And my view is that I wouldn't be upset or worried if we had a pullback to, what's that going to be? 175, let's call it. 50% retracement of this move back to the 50 EMA, let the RSI reset, and then move again. Now, I don't know what is driving the AIs to all move up, but they are. So it's kind of narrative driven. So just be cautious with that. Unless all of them are releasing stonkingly positive news that's helping to drive it at the same time, which I find it unlikely. But we've not only been able to climb out of this low, we've actually also, I know we did make a high, but we didn't hold it. I was thinking we sort of made a high above that, but we actually didn't. But the fact of the matter is we haven't been above the 50 EMA since September. We're now convincingly above it. Maybe we expect to pull back towards it from which we can build and then move on. But yeah, I can't fault that move there. Bijan's put, with HBAR, Solana, Light, XRP, ETFs being offered, do you think these will serve as liquidity extraction like Bitcoin futures in 2017? I don't know when they're going to come in. I mean, if they do come in, then I think there's every opportunity for them to, soak up some hype around them while others sort of exit towards those. But it's really, I'm still not convinced on whether or not institutions are that bothered about altcoins. Maybe the volatility is too great for them, or the use case just isn't there for institutional investors to put a significant amount in. And maybe I'm wrong with that one, but we'll have to just wait and see what comes through. So that's not the best answer. Seems like these alts have just dumped after their ETF products have been launched. They've just dumped Solana. Yeah, well, exactly. Solana being a prime example. Ethereum did pants for ages, then had a good summer, and it's not really doing that well now. If we just go on to here, I know it's not really charting this, but look how flat it was until the summer. Then it picked up, and we've kind of in a decline, semi-flat, but kind of decline. But that was 4 or 5 months of aggressive buying was all we really saw. And then if we go with Solana, get rid of the ad for eToro. I mean, it's so little has been bought that we don't even get a chart for it, Bitwise, pretty much the only player in town, and we're talking 648 million, which I know is no chump change, but it's not that big amount. So, yeah, I'm not sure about it, if I'm honest with you. ETH BTC. We'll go weekly just to start off with. Are we there for this alt season yet? No, not really. This is the... Oops, that's not right. That's what we normally do with it, isn't it? I'm going to have to get rid of this. I mean, we're getting close to that sort of resistance level, which is another opportunity for us to try and get through. History has suggested that we won't. Maybe this time is different, which would be great if it is. But yeah, right now, Bitcoin is still, for me, the king, and will remain that way until proven otherwise. Top 2, top 3, looking very similar. Dollars kind of just ranging. I keep on having to pull this out. Remember, this trend line goes all the way back to 2008. It's just been stubbornly staying above it. NASDAQ, S&P. I mean, S&P new all-time highs again this week. And then you go into the golds. It's hard. I mean, how do you chart this now? What do you do? It's going so far, so fast. This feels like it really is just enthusiastic speculation right now, which is what we were hoping to be experiencing with Bitcoin this time. It's not quite there, but you just kind of almost have to just go with the basic, right? These are the significant lines. I'm on the linear, on the log. They kind of work. I won't bother redrawing them, but those kind of step changes, and you're just waiting for break of angular change. And if it breaks through one and you happen to be in, you can sell a little bit. If you're not in, you're waiting for it to retest on the other one and see how it is. If we see a bounce from it, maybe it's an opportunity for an entry. But at the moment, these are just flying. And gold, I'm just using gold. I'll go on to silver in them right now. But weekly time frame, it has not lost the 20 EMA in 2 years. And back in 2 years ago, it was moving $20 every week. Now it feels like it's moving $20 every day, if not more. So yeah, really is moving. I kind of feel at some stage this is going to stop. We're going to have a hell of a correction, but right now that's too hard to call. And silver is even more vertical. I mean, silver is getting to the point where it is ridiculously vertical. 2024 we were at $22. We've been as high as $83. Currently sitting at just under $80. This thing is, I mean, it's so far off the 10 EMA, which it hasn't touched, by the way, since end of November. So only in 6 weeks, 6 weeks ago, we were at $50. We're now at 78. But it'd be a 65, it'd be a $13.50 fall just to get back to the 10 EMA, which would feel like the end of the world to a lot of people who've got in late. But yeah, palladium and platinum, very similar in terms of where they are. I'll do is flip onto this chart for the next one, only because I'm not necessarily charting, but just in terms of, oh no, I will do on this one. What am I doing? SML, Circle. I mean, Circle's still not looking great. Can't get above that 10 EMA. It's at $91 at the moment. Nvidia. I mean, I know people are like, oh, it's had its pullback, but has it really? It just moved back down to the 80 EMA and it's starting to find its feet again. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm on the weekly. Let's go down to the daily. Down to the 50 EMA, but it's not really fallen hard. Balance is similar. Tesla. Okay, that has started to move back down, but it is where it is. QBTS, coin, still in the downtrend. MicroStrategy, that's an interesting one because I'm not really into this whole MSCI kind of narrative, I'll be honest. It looks like it's been reversed, and yet there's no real movement back up here. This is still ranging low. It's been in terminal decline for a while now. And it is fighting for its life at these levels because we lose that 155 level and we'll be down towards $120, $100 before you know it. So this really is a big battle for MicroStrategy at the moment. And had MSCI been such a big thing, I would have expected to see a much larger move off that. Maybe it's not been officially announced and that's what they're waiting for. TauX has done all right. As I said, I kind of sold around this level. So a bit like Tower, it was V-shaped reversal, but it is running into, for those of you that have it, you know, this support resistance level here and the 50 and 200 EMA. So it might face a bit more trouble. I just wasn't that into it and it wasn't that much. So I just moved on from it. Is there anything else anyone wants me to cover whilst I'm on? Let's see, what's this? Sorry, I'm just having a look at Discord, see if anyone has just messaged it. No, fair enough. Meta is probably the weakest looking of the Mag 7. I do follow it on another thing. I never go to this one, but let's have a look. There are, see, my crypto related ones like Hudson, Mara, MSTR, Riot, starting to pick back up there. Meta. Here we go. Okay. Sort of rolling over that 50 EMA. At least it's still got 587 to hold it. Things like that. We never look at these, so me charting now. I mean, a lot of them seem to be in a bit of a decline, to be honest with you, the last week or so. I think it's just showing just how attractive precious metals are looking at the moment. But, you know, a lot of these are down. You know, Apple's down this week. AMD is down this week. Nvidia we saw was down this week. I'm having to resize each time, so I'm not going to keep on going. Amazon's up. Disney's kind of ranging sideways. Google's up. Meta's down. Microsoft is down. Netflix is down. Tesla is down. And yet the NASDAQ and the S&P all still climbing. So, yeah. But gold and silver, long and strong. So, okay, that's where we are there. Meta also led to the downside in 2021. So it's a canary in the coal mine to monitor. Could well be. Absolutely could well be with that one there. I think that's probably kind of it. Just go back to Bitcoin just quickly. Just make sure I've not missed anything from it. Because we are starting to see at least a little bit of a move upwards. But it's just, if you can't be bothered to chart watch this weekend or whatever, just keep in your head sort of that 91,500. You know, and until we get above that, I think we've got to just accept that it may further fall. And we're only talking about only $2,500 further down sort of the bottom of the range we find ourselves. So yes, you know, it could be an unnerving time, but it's not that far. We've been lower in the last 7 weeks. We've just got to ride it out. I haven't brought it up. I'm still, you know, kind of undecided on where we sit within the cycle. I'm in that sitting on my hands. I want to see higher highs, but the charts have to prove it to me. You know, price action has to prove it to me. It's got a lot of things in its way, and until it does, I'm just going to sit cautiously to the other side of it and be like, I'm ready to go if I have to. And I'll be happy to be laughed at and proven wrong when we get to 130,000. I'll be delighted for that to happen. But right now, it's not really there. And I'm not really looking at any alts except for Tau for the community and obviously myself a bit. Obviously not looking at alphas. And then ones that I can trade. And other than that, I just don't really have any other interest in altcoins right now because I just don't see them doing that well yet. There's no evidence from Bitcoin dominance that I need to put any real focus into altcoins. So why just waste my time? I might as well just look at that and prioritize other things. And that's kind of where it sits. Unfortunately, we do have some news coming out today, jobs data, potentially, as I say, the tariffs announcement on whether or not it's illegal from the Supreme Court. Someone asked about what Simon and others think that might do to the markets. If it's rejected, I kind of think, one, it's going to make Trump look very stupid, and two, he's made a lot of promises to the American people in terms of money in their back pocket, etc. And if he can't get that Supreme Court decision, if it goes against him, overturned, and as I posted, Polymarket seems to think it will be rejected, then yeah, he's going to have to rein back some of certainly that free money is given out, and who knows what else he committed spending wise off the back of tariffs, at least until he gets it sorted. Not to mention, he can't really use it as a stick anymore in threatening other countries. So yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of how that may play out. So keep an eye on the markets. They don't have to announce it today. It's going to be announced anytime from 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. our time, if they're going to. I could massively see them announcing it at like 8, 9 o'clock our time, 3, 4 o'clock US time, and then the market shut for the weekend. It'd be just classic kind of, we'll give everybody 48 hours to chill over it and let crypto just take the brunt of the pain or glory, I suppose. So that's kind of where I sit. I was just seeing Pippin's up 15, but yeah, I just keep an eye on it. I haven't placed, I know I talked about it on Tuesday, this trading card. I haven't placed a single trade yet. Don't think I'm doing anything behind my back. I know people asked about the trading calls on that. I haven't really got an answer back off it yet, but if I don't hear anything, just assume it's a no. And yeah, other than that, I'm going to leave it there because I am just waffling now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you see any trading setups or anything you are interested in, let me know. As I say, Reese put me in touch with Pippin. Great call there. Others have told me about ZTech and Zcash and a few others. So they're not always ones that I'm looking at. People will just bring them to my attention, and I'm all for that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. Any questions, feel free to tag me. And other than that, I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.